The following is brought to you by the Starfleet Podcast Network, SPN, The Spin. It was one of those days where you try to remember something and you get very close to remembering what it is, but then you can just feel your brain not connect. You ever had that happen?
Constantly. I'm 70 years old. What's your name?
Don't remember your own name. And here, like an idiot, I was about to answer you because I thought you were asking me.
You have to watch me. I'm tricky.
Red alert.
I'm BigJ. I'm here with Frank Parker Jr., who is part of a two-person team. Now, when I say two-person team, I'm talking about on Facebook, because the first thing I want to ask you before we talk about your fan production is the name you're using there, Nefarious Ferrets. So right. You have to tell me about that and why you didn't use Nefarious Tribbles.
Okay. Well, the story that goes along with Nefarious Ferrets and also my handle since 1998, filk ferret, is in fandom. There is a genre of music called filk.
Okay.
And so filk is basically, filk songs are songs about fandom, geekdom, and things like that. And it's done with guitars. We sit around in circles at conventions and sing all the time. Okay, so ferrets is something that I've always loved, and I own ferrets. So that's where I get filk ferret from. Now, so where do we get Nefarious Ferrets? Well, my wife and I perform filk songs at conventions under the nomenclature of Nefarious Ferrets.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense now, because that was the first thing I noticed. And I was thinking, there's got to be a good story behind this. There just has to be. Now, we talked a little bit about your fan production, Crossroads. Now, what I'd like to have you start off with, well, I guess, tell me and our audience some more about you, how you got into Star Trek, and what took you towards doing a fan film as your way of being more involved with Star Trek.
Well, as I was telling you earlier, I'm of the older generation, boomer generation. So in 1966, I actually was watching Star Trek, the first run of it, not the second run in the 70s. So I have always loved Trek. I have been a Trekker since day one. So it was just natural when I found out about the fan film community back in 2010 to really sink my teeth into it and say, yeah, I'd like to be part of this. And I was very fortunate. We have a local convention in Charlotte, North Carolina, where I'm living now. It's called Con Carolinas. And at that time, I was on the con committee. As a matter of fact, I was con chair the year that a production came to Con Carolinas to distribute their wares and talk about their fan production, Farragut. And it was Starship Farragut, and I met the creator and John Broughton, and I also met Michael Day, who was also one of the executive producers. And Michael and I got to be fairly decent friends. And he was telling me about their production. And how I actually got into fan films was not quite Farragut at first, but I had a Admiral jacket from Enterprise that my wife made. And Michael looked at me and he says, I've got this friend, Lee Gartrell, who's doing a production called The Romulan Wars, and he needs an admiral. And you got an admiral uniform.
Easy.
Easy peasy.
You don't need a wardrobe guy. You've already got it.
Yeah, I already got it. As a matter of fact, I got quite a few uniforms, but I digress.
Don't we all?
So I was a member I did a few shorts for him. I mean, where I played Admiral Black for that production. And about 3-4 months later, Starship Farragut was going to a convention in Atlanta, not Dragon Con, but it was a small Trek convention. And I met at the time I went there Michael Bednar, who was the main builder and also one of the executive producers of Farragut. And he invited me to go to St. Mary's, Georgia, to take a look at the sets. And I went down there. And from that point on, from St. Mary's to Kingsland, Georgia, when we had to move the sets, I was going down there for the first 2 years, every other weekend, and 5.5 hours each way to help build those sets.
Wow.
During that time, I looked and I said, I'd kind of like to do my own production. And since I was an alumni of Farragut, Michael said, sure. Why not? You can, film on the sets.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up starting a production called Dreadnought Dominion, which is still going, with Gary Davis and Randy Wren, two of my friends, because I got out for a little bit because of some things that were going on at the time that I needed to step away. So when I came back about 4 or 5 years later, they had continued with Dreadnought. And I said, well, I really can't, just come back in and be showrunner because of the fact that they've been doing this. So I said, I am going to start my own spinoff called Crossroads. And I ended up 3 years ago building a set in my mother-in-law's garage for our type of ship in our bridge. And that's basically up to date where we are now.
Now, you had mentioned a name just kind of as an aside. You've got a common friend, and John Broughton, and I've actually been in communication with him about being on here. So at some point, we're going to sync up and do that. It was just, you said the name, and I said, yeah, he's one of the ones I've been going through talking to get some more guests on Beyond Trek podcast, just to be able to talk to people that are involved with Star Trek, whether it's directly in the production of the actual property or something fan created, like the fan films or, those the sets. Like there's this thing we're going to be doing, talking about Ticonderoga, mm-hmm. which I would love to be able to get to that, and STLV. I wasn't able to make either of those, so I'm going to have to start saving up now. Here's where I really want to pick your brain. Sure. You refer to yourself as a Trekker. Now, there have been numerous discussions on this. There was actually a documentary that was done by Denise Crosby on the very term. Now, I've had this discussion before. I want to see where you feel, to see if you agree with me as to what the demarcation point is between Trekker and Trekkie. The way I kind of look at it is, you're a Trekker if you got involved with Star Trek with either watching a show or movie, whether it was first run or reruns, before Next Generation. So your involvement happened before that aired. Up to that point, you were a Trekker. Then any of your exposure tacking on, starting from TNG up, we call them Trekkies. Now, what would you, now with me, I mean, I was, 1982 was my first exposure. I was 5, and that was with Wrath of Khan.
Okay.
So I don't go as far back as the re-airing in the 70s, but I think a Trekker would probably consider themselves up to Next Gen. I mean, I grew up with Next Gen. I know it just about inside and out, but I was in Star Trek before that. So what are your thoughts on at least my opinion on where that line is, that generation change?
Yeah, I've heard it as a generational. I guess I've always interchanged the two, but when you look at it from that point, I think we were calling ourselves Trekkers before Next Gen, and then Trekkies came out. And I think Trekkies may have come out because I believe, was the one that Denise Crosby did, was that not called Trekkies?
Yes.
And I think
it was called Trekkies.
Yeah, that's where I may have come from, and that's interesting. I should know that, but I just never really looked at it from that point. But I would say, yeah, because I know that we were calling ourselves Trekkers or that, and Trekkies, yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. I would agree with that assessment.
We kind of as the parents, as the Trekkers, started getting our kids introduced to it, refer to them as Trekkies. I'm not sure where the actual first use of the word was, but I'm glad that I've come across someone that feels like, yeah, that's as good a point as any, is Next Gen September 87, that's a good cutoff to where it's pre-Next Gen Trekkers. After that, Trekkie. So I guess if that becomes the thing, if that becomes the official demarcation line, I'm going to claim full credit. You heard it here first. BigJ and Nefarious Ferrets, Beyond Trek Podcast, August 21st, 7:27 p.m., 2023. I'm going all the way. You can't plagiarize any of this. So that would be spectacular. And I've got to tell you, on your fan film and how you got the role having the uniform, I've got a DS9 style uniform that I'm trying to lose weight to fit back into. It was depressing when I wanted to wear it for an interview, and it decided, sorry, BigJ, but you're not going to put this on until you know, so it's like, wow, that's bad. But if your film is ever looking for like a Federation News Network anchorman, I'm going to do the hustle. You know, you can't fault that. I'm your guy.
One of the things that, let me get into this. I work with two other very talented individuals. One is Vance Major, who writes most of our stuff. He's also done his own series. He's one of the most prolific fan film people out there. He's made 150 short films called Constar.
Yeah. We were supposed to talk last week. It had to get postponed. So he and I are going to be. We got each other's numbers. We'll be setting up a time to talk.
I was going to suggest you talk to him. And then my other cohort is Jason Hurt, who is, I kind of pulled him along. It's rather interesting. Crossroads is made up of about a third Bank of America employees. But I just have this way of recruiting wherever.
You know what? I'm gonna message Vance right now and tell him we're talking, and his name came up.
Oh yeah, no, I mean Vance and I have done the 3:00 in the morning calls all the time. Yeah, we're very, very close. I'll tell you a very quick story about Vance and I.
Okay.
When I first met Vance, I had dropped out of fan films for certain reasons, and I kind of, in a way, left Dreadnought in a kind of a lurch, and Vance helped them get going to continue. And he thought I was an SOB. So when I came back about 4 or 5 years later, he looked at Gary and Randy and said, "So you're going to work with him again?" So
are you kidding me? Seriously?
Yeah, I had no idea this was going on. So I get this message one day on Facebook, and I had seen Vance before and some of the stuff he did. I said, he's an interesting character. And he, out of the blue, he messaged me and he said, "Hey, I'm Vance Major. How you doing?" I said, "Not too bad." And he was telling me that he was sitting there and he was, kind of trying to feel me out to see what type of person.
Right.
And he says, I do Star Trek fan films. I said, yeah, I'm working on, getting back into it myself. And he says, did you ever consider maybe, I put people in my films? And I said, I'd love it. And he said to himself, son of a bitch, now I'm going to write him in.
Now I need to write in this part. Damn it.
And now we are, like I said, he and I are very close, but it's just funny how things work out.
You're right. Think about the sequence of events that had to happen for that to come up. Getting someone into part of your production, because that's one of the things I'm going to talk to him about when we do talk is, again, whole fan film thing and how prolific that has been. And that's great that you've found. Now, this was a big thing that I wanted to ask you, because there was another prior guest that I had on. We talked about fan films. And one of the things that we found was interesting, or at least that I wanted to know, was that are the fan film productions that you have come across, it seems now like they're not as siloed as they may have been before in the past. And again, you'll have to tell me if you feel like there's a certain point here and fan films where the fan film productions and creators, I guess, stopped competing with each other and started working more together, because it, at least from my perspective, it did feel like for a while that you didn't hear of any intercommunity between the different fan films. What's your experience and your take on that?
Well, let's put it this way. That was back in the days just before they came out with the guidelines. And to be perfectly honest, that's one of the reasons I dropped out, because and I'm not going to mention any names, but people who know me what I'm about to say. One of the reasons I dropped out was because I had worked on sets all the time and put my heart and soul into working on the Farragut sets, to have somebody come in, buy the place, and then turn around and not let anybody else shoot on it. Or because I got a phone call from this individual who said, it's not that I don't want you to shoot on these, but I will charge you $3,000 a day to shoot.
What the?
Yeah, after all the sweat and tears a lot of us put into. So
it went corporate.
I just said that. And one of the reasons, even though the Kingsland sets now are owned by Ray Tessie, and he's doing a great job of keeping them going. And if
I'm going to be talking to Ray too. We're in there. We are intertwined.
We are and that's what I'm getting to. Yeah. Is after that time, and I'm going to put this on, and people are going to argue with me, but Vance Major was one of the major driving factors in this, because he would reach out to everybody. I mean, we still have outliers, and that's fine. But everybody gets along, and a lot of us, like Avalon and Nature's Hunger and George Kyan with Antilles, Tonstar, Dreadnought, Dominion, Crossroads, we've all showed up some point in each one's production. And how could I forget Star Trek Fan Films International out in California with Dave Chang and his crew out there. I mean, we are working together to make it fun. This is what it is. We're fun. You were saying earlier about, putting, I'd like to be a person in there as a broadcaster for one of your films. We try to do that because I've sat in the center's chair. Vance is in the center chair. We've had a dream. Why not try to let other people out?
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. That's very interesting, because in doing something like that, and even if it's not something like you're a news reporter, or you're the chief of security, you're the this guy or the that. I think that having that kind of thought behind it, that it's not so much an enclosed production per se, but you have a situation like that, do a scenario like that, and it grows, whether it's a good way or a bad way, that people see and get these stories that, hey, this guy on Facebook struck up a conversation with someone you knew in person, said, yeah, I love Star Trek, love fan films. You can tell them, why don't you play a part in one of our episodes or something? It's like, wow, oh my God, really? And that would really hook somebody in, because now you've put that person in a position where now they feel like, if they haven't felt it before, now they feel like they have a vested interest in Star Trek.
Yeah.
It feels like we can all be a part of it.
What CBS sometimes does not understand is the fans are what keep it going. And
Yes.
in the fact that during the dry years that there wasn't that much Trek on, that fan films actually were keeping Trek alive. That's one thing that I've understood about Lucas or David Weber and the Honor Harrington universe, is they embrace their fans and encourage them. I mean, look at the 501st out there for Star Wars. I mean, they're all over the place.
Yes.
And that's one thing where corporate greed can destroy a franchise. And I think if they had let us go, I understand it. There in the beginning, not in the beginning, but there were fan films out there that really weren't fan films. They were trying to be, completely, they were competing. They wanted to compete. And that's not the essence. That's not the way we look at the fan films,
That wasn't the point.
Yeah, I've got a uniform that's a little off. I mean, you take a look at Vance's stuff, damn good stories, but he doesn't have the sets and stuff like that. But he works with green screens and things like that, and he comes up with stuff. But where it is to a lot of us, it's not exactly the bling. It's the story.
Yep. That's the most important part, is the story. And the reason I say that, and just to give you an example, you were talking about when you started with Star Trek, you started with the original series, and we're not talking the rebirth in the 70s. You were there when it was first happening. And so that's, to me, I would say that anyone getting involved in it as a passion project, I think, is where fan films need to be. And I know there are ones, and I know this is when CBS started crawling up people's butts on that, it turned into a direct competition. And I guess more use of the intellectual property than what was deemed. There was a whole long period of leave them alone. It's good. It's fine. Everyone's happy. But then, yes, you get that instance where the corporate greed sets in, as we should be making money every time a set that looks like the TOS Enterprise is there. We should, and it's just, it's the money, money, money. And that's the thing that I worry about, is losing some of these productions and good films and great turnouts because the studio takes upon themselves to just be assholes about it. Like, I get that you want to make your money for your property, but really, is a fan film that much of a threat to you that you're going to lose any money by them? And you're not making money. You're spending your money to do this. That's what I don't understand. It's like, okay, let these weird Trekkers spend all the money they want with a hobby. We don't care. And I think that was the attitude for a while.
I mean, they're allowing now Well, and with the fan film regulations, I mean, you can get per episode, you can raise up to $50,000. I mean, some episodes, Farragut Forward's doing a little bit. You'll find this out from John. I mean, they're putting a lot of work into their uniforms and stuff like that. So they've taken it up that step. That's why they're trying to raise that amount of money. But for somebody like me, give me $25,000, I'll give you 6 films.
That's a bargain. Yeah. That is great.
Yeah, I mean, but I've got a GoFundMe going on right now. We're only asking for like $2,000. Right now, it's been kind of dead, but I mean, we're 3/4 of the way. So I've got about $400 or $500 left that we want to do. And it's going to be for like the food and some upkeep on the bridge. I mean, it's in a garage. You know what it's like. We don't shoot in the summer in the South here, boy. Nope. unless you have a control, but the garage certainly is not controlled. So, I've got plexiglass that we've got to replace, and, we want to do some painting and stuff like that. And uniforms and things like that. So I think that's a reasonable goal, because the next episode we're shooting, Romulan Ales, is a 2-parter, and it's going to have, some good CGI in it and stuff like that. We're raising the bar a bit, because before, the 5 films that we have out were all out of my pocket. And, even though we have volunteers, and this is, for anybody out there that thinks you get paid, ain't no way. This is all volunteer. We might, if we have, we might bring somebody in if we need them for something like that, and, give them, pay for their meals or their hotel room. But other than that, we're all volunteers, and we do it for the passion of it.
And the passion, I think, is what should really continue to be pushed and encouraged, because I think that you are right when you said that the fan films has been a major content source when we're going through the dry years of the official products. And now in these fan films, you're getting the quality and production. You definitely can see that there's been a big uptake in that. And to me, I feel like that started with Star Trek New Voyages, which was changed to Star Trek Phase 2. And now to me, it seems like if you're going to do a fan film, I can't say that I've come across any fan films that still maintain the early 2000s on a limited budget aesthetic of, you can tell this is a fan film. You can tell by the acting, how it looks, everything. Now, there's knowing that a film's a fan film, and then there's looking like it. And I feel like over the last probably good 10 years or so, that fan films have not been looking like fan films. They have been looking like independently created, pull off of actual Star Trek. You've got these unique sets, like these really real looking sets. You've got the uniforms and the props, everything. So anymore these days, it's not a couple of guys staying in an office after hours and trying to, dress it up to make it look like something, or put a green screen behind you in your basement or in a room, something like that. So it really feels like that the bar has been raised on fan films.
And in a lot of ways, you're right. And I take this from, I'm a Napster kid.
Oh, Napster. Oh, yeah.
Right. So when we at that time were putting our stuff, like the songs that I wrote and stuff like that, out on Napster, hoping people would pick them up. I wasn't going to make money on them. I just wanted the music to get out there, because I enjoy it. I write songs. You like them? That's fine. If not. But what happened with Napster continued going, people started recording their own. How many bands do you know that started off in a kitchen with the equipment that they have nowadays? A lot of the fan films are, you got, doesn't want me to show my phone.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right. A lot of these fan films, because now you don't have to spend a lot of money on stuff. You want to shoot your film in 4K. Here, take the phone. You could get yourself an actual camera, but the thing is that we are now down to where a selfie stick and a decent smartphone, you can film something that doesn't not look like a movie or official production, but that's so much of that technology has been put in our hands to be able to do that, to up the quality and make it more of an art form and make it more of we put serious effort into this.
Yeah. And you get people who, a lot of people don't realize, a lot of aspiring actors will do fan films, whether it be Star Wars, whether it be Star Trek, whether it be Orville, whatever, because they can get IMDb credits for this. And this goes on the resume when they join SAG. Because this thing that they use, they're performing.
Yeah.
Take a look at the IMDb for Dreadnought Dominion, for Avalon, for one of these days I'll get my IMDb. No, we do have one. But, the thing is, they're out there. And you get director points and stuff like that because you're directing the film and stuff like that. And it's very important.
That is. And being able to get some credit on IMDb, because every little bit goes towards something. And I know this firsthand. My best friend over 30 years, he's an actor based out of LA, and I actually work on his acting reel and his voice reel because of all the video audio editing that I do for this podcast. And I had a stint a while back in broadcast journalism. So it really developed that eye for the sound, the image that goes with it. What video are you showing to tie into the story, and then just the technical part of the editing. And for me, that's something that I think is a lot of pride, is one, getting into something like this, having a role on a fan film, and it counts as something. And for my friend, having an acting reel, a voice reel that was done by someone that has a vested interest in, I know myself and our families want to see you succeed. So I would rather have him bring work like that to me, because it doesn't matter how busy I am, I'm going to do that. Because if he were to get noticed and make that break and be out there, I just want to know that, it was my editing did that for him, the collaboration we had. And I didn't just throw some slop together. I approached it as, I want to be the one to help you get noticed and get you taken care of. So, and with that, because I like, when I put out something like these podcasts, I always strive to have the video be at least interesting to look at. You'll see it in post-production. I'll have some stuff, have it dressed up. And when you put out something, you want it to be good, to look good, sound good. That's how you get the audience. That's how you get people listening and viewing. And for the most part, looking at the number of listens, number of watches, it feels like we have a core audience of about 40, 50 people. And then you have the ones that, watch. They might not be subscribed, but so it's hard to get a good metric. So by doing that, and this is going with the fan films, is that, at least I'm assuming this is how you think, that if you're going to spend your time and hard-earned money on a thing, why would you not want it to be look nice, sound nice, be nice.
Exactly. And the thing when you say that, I mean, on our channel, No Budget Productions, Filk Productions, we do podcasts and live streaming and stuff. We've been a little light lately, but I had a show on that was called Filk Quest, and what I wanted to do was to get not the songs that a lot of other people did. I wanted to find out what my fellow filkers, how they started, what they did, and get them noticed for that. And I understand where you're coming from. And if you can get them to have a bigger following you're right, 50, 60 people is your core. And you have the same ones all the time there. And once you have that, you know that these are your fans. These are the ones that you're producing for, and everything else is gravy. We lost your voice.
Muting myself while talking. That is a tradition that we have here at Beyond Trek Podcast. There have been several times one of us would just start talking and forgot that we muted ourselves for some other task. So thank you for that. I appreciate you. I blame it on the heat stroke from cutting the grass earlier out in 100-degree weather. There you go.
I had a compressor go on my car Friday. I'm in North Carolina. Driving home today without air conditioning, it was 98 degrees in my car. I died for 20 minutes.
Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah, so I took a long nap when I got home because I'm 70 years old. So
you're not up for being out in this heat and all the drama.
No, as you can tell by my fantastic Southern accent, I'm originally from Massachusetts. Okay. So we didn't know anything about air conditioners up there. We were worried this time of year about whether the thermostat was going to heat the car.
Or if it was going to start in the morning after it snowed.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Well, with where I live, this part of the state, I'm in Cincinnati, it is notorious for going through 3 seasons in a day. That's not off the tables. You have to dress for, in the morning, you've got your sweater on, your shirt, your jacket, your pants, your scarf, because it's 0 degrees outside. By lunchtime at work, it's spring. So now you're trying to get off some of these jackets and layers and all of that. And then as you get into the later in the day and the evening, we have now reached summer. So please dress accordingly. So it's either take 3 different sets of clothes with you or play your chances and say, you know what, I'm going to split the middle and dress like it's spring. So I'll freeze in the morning. I'll be okay when it's spring today. And then today when it's summer, I might, or just go for broke and dress for the winter season of the day and then just charge through when that day hits spring and summer.
I know. It's crazy. Yeah, without a doubt. It's like in Massachusetts, it's winter, pothole.
Yeah. No, so let me ask you this: is there any kind of governing body, group, committee, any form of a collective that something like a fan film union, anything like that? Any kind of collaborative body of people that just kind of keep things together?
Not really.
Okay.
We're pretty much all our independent productions. From that point, if somebody needs, cameo or something, we just shoot the video and send it off to them. But as for any type of organized group, no. And I really don't think that we really need one. because we get along so well. And I don't know how that would work with volunteers. And you went for Ute again.
You know what I'm going to do? When I take a drink here of my water, you're just going to have to hear me drink it because I put myself on mute so you don't have to hear me chugging the water. And then I forget. That's twice now. So, or maybe I just won't drink the water until after. But it was hot, so that's why I was doing that.
Can you hear me?
No.
Do the same thing.
Yeah, it's okay. I've got ice falling around in mine. See.
Oh wow, my ears.
Well, with my headphones on, I'm afraid that when I actually go to hear it, that it sounded like a ice shelf breaking off, and so yeah, you can get many people to tell me that I'm a little too serious, a little too OCD about sound and editing. So there was, I see that these productions have even gotten to the point where you'll get some of these that have returning actors on these. And I think that really feels like that's turned a corner when you're seeing actual Star Trek actors have some role in a film production. That's got to be very difficult. Is there a process that you were involved in trying to get a cameo like that? And what was that experience like?
As a returning character?
Well, no, not as a returning character. I'm talking about a character that was a character on the show, like on TOS, Voyager, DS9, TNG.
That is a big no-no.
Gotcha.
Yeah, no, fan films can. Now, the last one that actually did come out that CBS, I do believe, allowed to finish was one that was called Yorktown.
Mm-hmm.
And that had George Takei in it. And that was just finished last summer. But the stuff that they had shot was from years ago. And they finally put it together. So I think that's why they got under that. But one of the things that has always been suggested and back and forth is that CBS did not like things like Renegades. Renegades had Walter Koenig in it, had Nichelle in it, also had, I'm not sure if George was in it. But anyways, they had, Gary Grayson has been in there. So that is one of the things you cannot use any person who's ever been in a production in Star Trek. It'd be nice if they could, but I think that was part of the competition they were looking at, is because they were, even though I don't know if those like Renegades and stuff, they may even have been trying to make a profit. I don't really know that, so I'm not going to quote it. But Of Gods and Men was another one that they had, people. They had Gil. Is that the one that they had Gil from Buck Rogers? I don't remember if that was Gods and Men. But Of
Gods and Men. So I don't know the Buck Rogers connection. I can't recall the name of the actor, but you're talking about the one. I can't the name of the episode in the original series. I can't recall it, but Apollo was the antagonist in that episode, and that same actor was brought back.
Yeah. Okay. That was Star Trek Continues.
Yes. Yeah. That's right.
That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. I thought that Star Trek Continues I like that one. Is there a fan film production that I watched it religiously. Is there one like that you feel like that's your go-to fan film?
No. Well, my go-to fan films would be Farragut, also Potemkin by Randy Landers in Ohio. He does another his sets are in his basement. No, I'm probably one of the very few, but Star Trek Continues was not at all on my radar. That's all I'll say. I'm gonna
do one closer here and ask follow-up question. There's interesting body and facial language there that suggests there's a story. There's a story about a lady, but no, one about that production. So I love gossip. So is there some gossip you can share there that's not going to breach an NDA or gentleman's agreement, things like that?
No, not at all. No. Remember I mentioned something about $3,000?
Yep. Oh, okay. So here we have the professional grade looking set, but now it's been bought up and we're going to make money off of this.
Well, he's going to raise and have his little dream and not let anybody else use it, and then destroyed half of the props and stuff in it.
That's ridiculous. That makes no sense.
Yeah, but as I said, I'm not out to bash anybody. I mean, that's one of the things I had to let go of. And when I came back in, I knew I was going to run into it. But the fact is, I'm making fan films because I enjoy fan films and the people that I work with now. And as I said, Ray Tessie down there that owns the studio now is fantastic. I mean, I've been down helping Avalon at the old studios that I helped build. And it's like coming home down there, and they've they're trying to keep it going. And I'm glad that they are. I really am. It was just the interim that was not so pleasant.
When is your fan film production expected to release? Do you have a release on that?
I do have 5 out already. Mm-hmm. We do have 5 films, and they're on No Budget Filk Productions, and it's under a thing called Grissom Adventures. And Grissom Adventures starts. The whole playlist starts with cameos that we've done. It comprises with Constar, then 2 films that I produced for Dreadnought Dominion, mm-hmm. and then going into the beginnings of Crossroads, and then doing a last shoot with Dreadnought with me actually going back to the Dreadnought mm-hmm. Dominion and, answering some questions of why I was gone, and then into us going to the ship, and then us getting a shuttle scene, and then going to a planet called for Rebirth, and then a short little fun one, and another one that eventually we're going to be moving into the future. Mm-hmm. So set that up. So it's they're out. They're out on No Budget Productions, Filk Productions, and that's where they are. And Constar's on there. We have a lot of different, films and stuff like that on that site that people have let us put up there. And we're working with another organization, a new addition to our channel is Rain Cross, and that's with Paul Jacques out in mm-hmm. California, and they're doing. They've already got like 4 season shots. So.
Real quick here, I'm hoping I can find this. I want to throw out names of some of these fan films that I watched a lot of during the low years of official content. There was Star Trek Hidden Frontier.
Yeah, that was a good one. Yeah. Yep.
I like that. Those were the pioneering days. That was early days of fan film. And one of the things I thought was great about it was that it adopted growing. The look and change in acting, like things, it got better. I think that probably helped with some of the longevity. Let's see this Star Trek Intrepid. I believe that's Over the Pond. Star Trek.
And that's Nick Cook is in charge of that. Nick, one thing very quickly about Over the Pond seems to concentrate more on TNG, and we seem to concentrate more on TOS.
Mm-hmm.
So, Trevor, excellent one.
And like I said, there's so many. There are some that I need to get from the archives to get out and watch. And I know where I was going with another question that I kind of just dropped the lead on it, but getting the actual stars, the actors. Now, you said that was one of the things that started getting these fan films in hot water, or was it? I don't want to ask that part of the question. The part of the question that I really wanted to know about is, okay, so it's a fan film. How did anyone go about being able to get and have some? I mean, you didn't have William Shatner, Leonard Nimoy, and DeForest Kelley, but you had George Takei, Nichelle Nichols, Walter Koenig, and the actor that played John Harriman of the Enterprise B and Generations. And what was that called? Of Gods and Men. I was just looking at it. Right. How do you get to the point where you're able to do that? Because I'm sure that there's a firewall lengths amount of people that you'd have to go through just to get to that point. So I guess the question I'll ask you is if you had any direct experience with trying to get an actual star in your show, or any stories around the fire pit, as it were, with you guys. What's that look like?
I mean, to us, we never tried to get anybody for our series that would come in that came from the original shows. However, Grant Imahara and Chris Doohan were with Star Trek Continues, and when they were down there, because there was that crossover time where we were still doing Farragut, I met Chris and I met Imahara and Grant. And they were great guys. I mean, they were fantastic. They were down to earth, and they neither. Well, one of course was MythBusters, but Chris Doohan was working for Kaiser Permanente. So he wasn't even an actor, even though he had a cameo on the first one, but he had one line on the second one in A.J. Abrams stuff. But you take a look at some of the things. Is at one point James Cawley was working with CBS. He was trying to get Star Trek, voyages and stuff like that. And technically, that was supposed to be a reinvention. That was supposed to be syndicated. They were thinking of trying to get that to take over from there. So Axanar, out in California, Alec knew a lot of people. When you're living in California in that area, you run into people all the time.
Yeah, that's right.
And so then, I mean, in North Carolina, you don't see too many people, but you have people like, I'm trying to think, who played the Enterprise Admiral in Enterprise.
The Admiral in the Enterprise, that's Vaughn Armstrong.
And I think Vaughn has been to a couple of conventions in this area, and I think Vaughn lives in Virginia. So I could be wrong where he lived, but he's there. And you get people too that go to conventions. I mean, when Richard Hatch was alive, Richard Hatch used to come to Con Carolinas all the time. Mm-hmm. I mean, he and I were friends. We would talk to each other all the time. Bill Blair, who is a person who has been in the Guinness's Book of World Records for the most alien Action, who's been on Trek and stuff like that. He wishes me a happy birthday every year. Every once in a while, we talk. So yeah, when you're working in that type of situation, you do eventually run into people.
So it sounds like you're right. It'd be a lot easier to have that chance then, because the odds of running into someone and not have them being flanked by their agents or bodyguards or their bookies, their executive assistants, all the people that kind of make sure don't get too close to the star, don't make eye contact, don't speak, give him $200, he'll tell you a story, things like that. Well, I really like all the talk about the fan films, and I think that it's great that you're contributing to the fan film world. As we wrap up here, are there any, what's the word I'm looking for? Any promoting you want to do for any of your projects for the film? This is the part where we have you just talk about all the stuff you're into and how our audience can view and support that.
Well, basically right now, we have, we're going to be starting shooting of Romulan Ales sometime in October. We're waiting for it to get a little bit cooler. We've had having our read-throughs. We've been, I'm going to be mounting some more TVs this weekend to make our bridge look a little bit better. We had graphics up there, but I decided I'd rather have some LEDs up there, so I went out and got a bunch of cheap ones, and I'm putting them up there. But we've got a GoFundMe, and as I said, we're only asking for $2,000. I know it seems like a lot to a degree, but we've got fan films out there asking for $10,000, and I think we're doing a reasonable job. I mean, we know that it's tough, the economy's tough, so all I'm asking is if you can throw in $5 or $10. I mean, that's great. But the biggest thing too is if you can go out to your friends or your people and just spread the word and say, hey, I came up with a sort of a tagline. I think it goes like this. How it is? It says that instead of investing in your next Starbucks, how about investing in a Romulan Ales? So,
yes.
So, as I said, I think I just had somebody just donated a couple of bucks today. It brought us up to $15.80. So
you're getting there.
Yeah, we're getting there. So, it's been dead the last 2 weeks. But then again, school and everything else coming up. And I know that, people are looking at that. And I know the economy's tight,
It is. The economy's killing us.
No.
Let's hope it doesn't affect Star Trek.
Yeah, it won't. I mean, let's put it this way. I'm going to, this is going to be out. We are going to film it. There's no doubt about it. If we don't hit our goal, we don't hit our goal. I'd like to hit it. It will help us, make, a little bit better production. But you do what you can because of that one love, and that's the love of doing the Star Trek. And I'll do it. I mean, I like I said earlier, I'm 70. I'll do this till I drop.
Mm-hmm.
But what I will do, and to be perfectly honest, people have seen enough of my ugly face on screen. My joy is building the sets, being behind the camera, is what I really enjoy being. And that's what I may eventually be doing. I know, and I can't stress too much. Randy Landers is the same way. He's got a couple productions going on, and he does all the work behind. Every once in a while, he'll do a cameo. And what I'll probably do is, I'll do a cameo and be on the Harrison as the flag officer. And when you need me, I'm there. If not, I'm doing something else. But I got to do something with all my uniforms. I just my first bit. I just got this in. I put this on because I've really fallen in love with some of the things that they have for Picard.
Oh, yeah.
I love this Picard jacket. This is the one he wore. So
I like how we got some new uniforms and variants and cool jackets, things like that. So, yeah, that one looks nice.
Yeah, I'm glad I got this from New American Jackets. They've been doing a pretty good job. Mm-hmm. And, not to you owe me money, guys. But, I did take the time and had it tailored. It cost me $40 more, but I enjoyed it. I'm glad I did because I got one of those pear-shaped bodies,
I hate that. Don't you hate that? Like, why did this happen? But yeah, that's my goal is I've got my DS9 uniform in the closet, and that's the goal is to be able to get back to wearing that again. So Frank, thank you very much for spending the time today. Really enjoyed it.
Well, I had a great time, and hey, look at everybody out there. Go out and that's my German Shepherd. Just go out and, grab your camera. Have fun. We've got people that do that all the time. They go, hey, I want to make a Star Trek fan film. Hey, go out and do it. We'll give you a hand. We'll tell you what to do and what not to do. We're inclusive. But thank you very much for having me.
Yes, and thank you for listening and or watching. And as we always say, go boldly with Beyond Trek Podcast. If you enjoyed this podcast, you can support us at patreon.com/BeyondTrek.
We are Beyond Trek Podcast. Lower your inhibitions and surrender your ears. We will add inspirational and hilarious Trek content to your day. Your attention will adapt to subscribe to us. Resistance is futile.